Hello, we are It's About the Kids Incorporated. We are
Okay.
It was a dark and stormy night, nor'easter rolling in. It's a long 12 hours, the power's out again. I pray for inner strength and that we don't lose no lives. Just another day in the first responders' eyes. Half a cup of coffee's gone, the first run comes in. A car slid off the road, there's a family trapped within. My heart beats like a hammer, I can barely catch my breath. I'm thinking the worst and hoping for the best. Yeah, we ain't superheroes, we're just ordinary people trying to make a difference, and the first on every scene. It's a heavy, heavy burden to carry all this burden when you can't unsee the things you've seen. It keeps going on when those sirens are gone.
All right, welcome to the award-winning Mad Radio Show here in the Fishbowl, your first responder network in healing our heroes. With John and Sam, we are dedicated to providing first responders with the most updated mental health resources available and bring them live to you. We are broadcasting from Globe Life Park, the heart of the entertainment district here in Arlington, Texas. And like I said, we are in the Fishbowl, which, Sam, I got to tell you, I'm looking at that book right now. What is it?
Irony.
What is it entitled?
A Life in the Fishbowl. And we're not talking about us.
Life in the Fishbowl. You know, we have an amazing show. One thing with Tegan, and I say that right, Tegan?
yes, sir.
Okay, because I'm real bad with names. Tegan and Holly, right?
Right.
All right. Tegan.
Nice job.
I know.
That was
it's
awesome.
amazing. Amazing. See what happens when I eat a couple of fruits and vegetables and I start to get some sleep.
Yeah.
You know, it's been a whirlwind weekend, and you know, we have done so much in the last 4 weeks, Sam. I'm glad to have Tegan and Holly in here to discuss this, because this is something that, you know, when we talk about healing our heroes, this is something that goes beyond sometimes. When we think about post-traumatic stress, when we think about the stress of the job, you know, we talk about car accidents, we talk about domestic disputes, we talk about all that stuff. We never get into something like this.
Yeah.
This is something that goes way beyond the normal daily law enforcement life.
And I got to tell you, I mean, it's first of all, thank you, Holly, for just I asked her right when they walked in the door. I'm like, hey, could you be on? Could you be on with Tegan, because the stuff that you cover in the book, and we'll bring people in and let them know what we're talking about in a second here.
Yeah.
It is key. Is part of what we do is a badge of honor, healing our heroes with trauma behind the badge. Hey guys, if you're listening, I think Thayer's on. Chateau Recovery is one of the big focuses is on family, because we can sit here, talk law enforcement all day long, share stories or morbid humor, all that kind of good stuff. But there hasn't really still been discussion on how our lives and how I'll say still live our lives have an effect on our families. And I just from me and John appreciate your openness, what you put in the book. And yes, people, yes, I know. I'm gonna clue you in here. They're like, what are you talking about?
What are they chopping out the bed?
I know.
This is radio. We're supposed to build it up and then give you a big letdown.
This is
the tease.
Exactly. So, well, why don't we just can we see it on camera? This is what we're talking about. This book called Life in the Fishbowl. And the author, Tegan Broadwater, is sitting across from me, and his lovely wife, Holly, is next to him. And he wrote this book. Gosh, my description isn't even going to do justice, but I'm going to try, if that's okay.
Please do.
Tegan, to say kick-ass undercover cop is an understatement. You humanized a critical time in Fort Worth policing, and throughout, after you're done with your assignment, I mean, all of us here, we knew Garrett Hall. Amazing guy. You've lived through a lot, you've seen a lot. The way you describe the scenes, I mean, I'm reading this and I was like, okay, would anybody like to step forward and make this movie, because it must be made. Book. So yeah, it's called Life in the Fishbowl, and I'm just gonna read Tegan's bio real quick. He is a CEO, musician, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and author of this awesome book. I'll put it this way: Life in the Fishbowl. We got it, Michael? There we go. The harrowing true story of one cop who took down 51 of the nation's most notorious Crips, and his cultural awakening amidst a poor, gang-infested neighborhood. Tegan's unique experience in the worlds of business, music, and rare, deep undercover work ignited a passion for contributing to positive social change. His contributions manifest in creative projects that purposefully spark conversations between different people about important issues such as systemic racism, police and community relations, and criminal reciprocity experienced by boys without fathers. Tegan spends most days running his company, writing and recording thought-provoking tunes, investing time and money into his favorite charities, public speaking, working out, and sharing an occasional fine whiskey, 12 in my
H&M whiskey, there it is,
with his son, or exclusive bros. But mostly he enjoys spending invaluable time with his best friend, his wife, Holly.
Well, welcome
welcome
to the
Tegan
show.
And Holly.
Thank you. Yes, thank you
couldn't
so
have said
much.
that better myself. It's almost as if I wrote it. That's great.
So Tegan, just real quick, you started off in Fort Worth. Give us a little background about yourself.
Oh, wow. The quickest version is I grew up as an aspiring musician and went to school to study music, studied jazz actually at North Texas State.
Oh, wow.
Which kind of dates me. It was now University of North Texas. Took off from school and was touring and doing regional tours and stuff like that with groups. Got signed to a little deal and got nothing but frustration from the actual music business. So, since the fourth grade, that was supposed to be my destiny. So I feel like it was advantageous at that point. I was trying to think, well, what else could I possibly do? At no point in my life I'd ever considered doing anything else, and had a handful of cops that used to come watch me play and stuff. And so They talked about doing law enforcement work, and I thought it sounded great. I was like, hey, can I sign up and go to SWAT, or do I have to do
Right.
So I did that. I cut 8 inches of locks off and got in my first shot, and had very little experience in this stuff, but I just felt like coming from musician environment, I know you're
That's
a comedian.
That's what makes it very unique. You came from a musician's background, into a law enforcement life, and did so well at it, and made such a difference and made such an impact. For someone that wasn't bred into it, or when I was 8 years old, I wanted to be a cop type of thing. So that's what makes this such a success story. It makes it such a story that anybody can. Doesn't matter what your path is. If you have passion into your path, you can definitely make a difference in the lives of others, and you've proven that.
Yeah, and I know it's hokey, but I really felt like that would be the motivation at that point, because everything else was done for myself to try to build up a music career and everything like that. So it was the only thing that attracted me at all, and it was almost like an epiphany when I thought about, well, that's something that I could actually do. Well,
so if fireman
awesome.
came into that bar to listen, you'd probably be a fireman then.
No, I don't think I realized what a cushy job that would be, but I also realized that if it involves medical processes, then forget it. No,
You have a really cool calendar, though. Cops don't have a good calendar. The firemen have a great calendar.
That's actually true, but I'd prefer to just keep my shirt on and do my own thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think part of just being successful tactically was that I didn't have a bunch of bad habits. I didn't grow up on a ranch and aspire to be a cop and have all these crazy guns and weird habits and thoughts. I basically ingested everything that they taught me, and ended up being the best shot, in my class and everything else.
That's
having
awesome.
very little experience with firearms and stuff like that. So that was an interesting experience, understanding that you can actually take a layman and teach them tactics, but appreciating the fact that you can't take someone that's socially inept and just teach them how to relate to people. So I felt like that's what the greatest asset that I brought was that I grew up in a culture around a bunch of men and women who, freely took drugs and did whatever. I wasn't the person that indulged, but I was around it all the time.
Right.
Everybody was cool with me, and I was cool with them.
Right.
As a kid, I had friends that were jocks, and I had friends that went to in the smoking section and skipped school. It's just
Right.
I'm just a people person, and if you're a good person, then I appreciate you. So I think that's what I succeeded by leveraging, just because I don't think any other way. So
Right. So you actually grew up around the lifestyle. You grew up around, I don't want to say the lifestyle, but you grew up around people. So you knew how to act. You knew how to, which is, me and Sam were talking about this the other day, and when we get into your undercover work, undercover work is a lot of acting, but it's also a lot of pre-law enforcement experience to make sure you fit in, to make sure you get in with the crowd, to make sure you're able to, because you know it as well as I do, they can spot it a mile away.
Oh, no question.
I was buying drugs on the streets of East New York. Cop on my forehead. They just look at me and go, yeah, I could buy from peepholes where they didn't see me. But if I walked up to someone and said, hey, give me 2, they'd be like, yeah, okay, see you later.
I thought you were on drugs when I got here.
Well, now I'm on drugs. Now.
I'd say
retirement's been good to me. But, and that's key into what played into your successful role into what you did. So
well, and that's the most amazing thing, because when you were referred to us, thank you, John Edmondson, and I'm like, let me go online here, and I'm looking at this clean cut white guy, and I was like, wait, Undercover Crips, Fort Worth. What's the book? Just give it to me. I got to read this because this doesn't make sense, on the surface. Yeah. And so if you are listening to this on fprn.us and not watching on Facebook Live, you definitely want to maybe jump over or check out Tegan's website. I'm just going to give it to you right now.
Can you pin this, Mike? on
Tegan
social media?
TeganBroadwater.com.
Yeah.
So you can see
Tegan
Tegan.
Broadwater.
in person and what he looks like. And I want to let's just dive right in here.
Well, one thing I want to know, and yeah, if we're gonna dive right in, you know, for a guy who's a musician coming in, no law enforcement, you know, what most guys would have turned around and said, well, I'm gonna take the sergeant's exam, I'm gonna take this exam, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna be a boss, or I'm gonna sit behind a desk, whatever. You jumped right into the meat and potatoes of law enforcement, which I think is fantastic. What made you go into, I guess, narcotics, or into the gang unit, or what made you gear that way?
Well, honestly, I think when I started, that's where my aspirations were. And I hesitate to put it this way, but some of the action was attractive, but I felt like I had the even head to take on things like that. You know, and as I gained experience, you know, working patrol and making arrests and everything else, I got into fights and you know, like everybody does. Everybody gets into the scrum.
You were in Fort Worth, right?
In Fort Worth, yeah.
So what area of Fort Worth did you
I worked
patrol?
I worked the east side.
East
Fort
side?
Worth. So I learned a different culture there. I learned how people behave, and I learned why we're there is to protect other people in that community. And I didn't get a canted view of just the criminals that exist in those neighborhoods, you know. And it's
the
difficult.
real life. The real people in the neighborhood.
Right.
Yep.
These are, I mean, that's your whole purpose. I mean, otherwise,
Correct.
why are you serving anyone in a poor neighborhood if everyone's a criminal? Well,
Right.
everyone's not a criminal.
The ones that are hiding behind the locked doors.
Yeah, those
They're
are
scared.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and so it was it was eye opening for me, but at the same time, I felt like everybody was relatable. I'd had a lot of experience, you know, with different cultures and different races of people, and so I kind of leveraged that to try to get into other things. When I got into, you know, I studied martial arts for a while and stuff too. Whenever you get into a fight and you say, hey, I've got to take you to jail, and they back off and say, I ain't going to jail,
Square
put
off
their
on
fists
you.
up, I'm thinking, hell yeah, this is great. But at the same time, when you get control, I also am not taking it personally. It's like, hey,
Right.
that was fun to take care, and, you know, we'll literally sometimes be just cutting it up on
Yeah.
the way to jail, because look, it's not personal. Like,
It's business.
you're trying to get away or fight me, and I'm trying to do my job. And now that it's over and we got into a scruff, that was kind of fun. And
You want a hamburger on the way
yeah,
to jail?
yeah. So what do you do? You know, besides this. So yeah, it was super eye opening. And so, you know, that was my whole thing. Is I thought I'll get into undercover work. Ultimately, is what I really wanted to do, because I really felt like my background just lend itself to having a successful opportunity there. I didn't really know this, but I thought this, because hell, I didn't know what undercover work was.
Did you deal with a lot of in east side of Fort Worth? Did you deal with a lot of narcotics and gang activity in your area?
Yeah, tons of it.
It was okay.
Yeah, tons of it. You know, there's lots to do. So I think in any large city, if you work in some of the poorer areas, you're going to end up with crime and issues that are a result of people being poor and
Correct.
put in poor positions. And you have opportunities to abuse privileges in those cases. You know, you've got lots of people that can't afford, vehicle insurance. If you're the guy who's just going to stroke people's 6 tickets because they can't afford this or that, and you just want to get your nugget
Book-
and whatever.
yeah, get your
I mean,
books on,
there are
right.
those guys and
Right.
girls,
Right.
and of course, those are the ones that everyone remembers. And I was the same way. So look, I grew up respecting police, and I was the yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, whatever. And when they pulled me over all the time because I was the long-haired dude, and stripped my car down. I remember one time on my way back from Houston, I had a gig. I had an 8 o'clock class, but I had a gig on a Saturday or Sunday night rather, and it ended at 2 a.m. So I packed up all my drums at the time, loaded it into my 77 Caprice, and start trying to haul down up from Houston so that I can get 2 hours
A short
of sleep.
5-hour
Right,
drive.
right.
Yeah,
Right,
but,
exactly.
it's nice to be young. But and I kept having this car, kind of pull up and then pull back, and it was kind of messing with me. So I kept trying to keep a distance or whatever. Eventually pulled me over. It was a DPS unmarked vehicle or whatever. He came up and asked, and I was very respectful and hadn't been drinking, and he asked me all the questions. Started searching the car. I told them what everything was, and then they had me stand away, and they brought some other people in there. They tore everything up, took all my equipment out of their cases, threw it into the
musicians got to
into
be
the
on
side,
drugs.
Right.
yeah,
Gotta
threw it
find
into
something.
the side of the road, broke my turn signal lever,
Oh, wow.
broke my glove box trying to get into it when I had a key, but nobody asked me for it. And after they found nothing, they just left everything strewn over the freeway at 3:30 in the morning and said, "Okay, take care." And I was like, "Wow, dude." Wow, but I still wasn't the guy either that I don't launch a call, but I remember that obviously, but I know that there are also cops that actually did me righteously during my time too, because once they find out and give me a few minutes and they realize, oh, you're a straight guy, you just look like you're not a straight guy, which I understood. It was kind of a purposeful thing. So I took that forward. I mean, I remembered how it felt to be discriminated against, and there's good cops and bad cops, and I experienced them all.
And I get, and that plays a big role in as a cop. When you can see that, when you can say, you know what, I've been disrespected, so I'm not gonna, there's a time and a place.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to disrespect somebody just because I'm wearing a badge, not just because I'm wearing a uniform or whatever. I didn't like it. I'm sure other people aren't going to like it.
Right.
So that brings a lot of professionalism to the job. Me and you have spoken about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was a white kid thrown into East New York, Brooklyn.
Yep.
I was out of the suburbs in the ghetto like that going, holy crap, what is this about,
Right.
But I took time to learn the culture. I took time to talk to the families that are behind the closed doors, that do the homework on the their kids, their 7-year-old kids are doing homework on the floor because they can't sit by the windows, and I respected that. And I said, these people need a chance. These people need to have somebody to help make a difference.
Yeah.
I understood why they were stealing food because they had no money, so it's
You want to curb the behavior, but you don't want to do it by putting them in cuffs and
Right.
stuffing their
Exactly.
head into the
There's
pavement
sometimes
every
other
time.
ways to
Yeah.
do it.
Absolutely.
We can bend things a little bit to adjust for the heartaches that they're suffering.
Right.
And I was the same exact way.
Yeah. And it's if you go in with a servant's heart, and that's really what you're trying to do.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's as simple as that. But you can't teach that. You can show people perspective and open their eyes and have them realize, oh, I never realized that. But you can't take an a-hole and just tell them to have a servant heart,
Right.
and understand that this is a different culture and this is how they're thinking. And if you speak to them with respect, then you'll get a better understanding. You're the one that needs to learn, not them, and et cetera. There are some people that just can't be taught.
Because you put a badge on and they think and it's a power trip. It's a power
yeah.
trip. When I was about 8 years old, I used to go to Grand Union. My father was a produce manager in Grand Union back in Queens, and he'd take me to work with him, And I was the little kid just breaking up boxes and the whole bit. But I was, I'd wander around the store, and I saw this old lady one day loading up her purse with apples, oranges, and a whole bit. She was filling up bananas, all this fruit. So me being a dumb kid that I am, I ran back to my dad. I'm like, Dad, she's stealing food. So he came out.
Future cop.
He came out and he looked. He saw her putting stuff in the bag, and I said, "Aren't you going to do anything?" My father just turned around and he goes, "No." He goes, "She's stealing food. That means she's hungry. She's got to eat." He goes, "This is free from the ground." He goes, "We grow this stuff. It's not like we manufacture it. We grow it." He goes, "It's not costing us anything, and it's putting food in her belly." He goes, "Let her take it." And I looked at him. I'm like, okay, there's a reasoning behind that. He goes, turn around to me.
Right.
Turn around to me. He goes, "People steal fruit and vegetables all the time." He goes, "They have to eat." And I took the whole attitude into the bad parts of Brooklyn with me. And I said, "You know what? You got to make a living. You got to eat. You got to put food on your table.
Right.
You got to survive." And when you look at somebody in that aspect, no matter what color they are, and you look at them as a human being and say, "Hey, you have to survive. I understand that. Let's work together," instead of going, "You're right, I'm wrong," and us against them mentality, that whole bit. Put that all aside.
Yeah, because even setting the table like that is already making the line blurred.
Yes.
So at that
Exactly.
point, there has to be some kind of conversation or adjustment of the rules or whatever. I mean, you have an obligation at some point. Hey, you're stealing this, but at this point, hey, if you're in uniform and you see it, then you can't just say, well, I'm going to let him steal, for
Right.
instance.
Correct.
But you might say,
Let me
hey,
buy that for you.
Right. Before you walk out with that, let me take care of you, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. So we're already thinking the same
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
let me buy that for you. I don't have to put you in cuffs because me putting you in cuffs for stealing fruit.
Right.
What does that do? It puts a collar under my belt. I arrested you. I bring you before the judge. The whole bit. Screw up your whole life. You got kids at home.
And
you
the
got,
neighborhood now knows you're the asshole.
Right. So
Yeah.
you know what? I'll take the
Right.
$10. I'll take the $20 out of my pocket. I'll buy you fruit. You got a meal. You're happy. You respect me. I respect you.
And you scared the piss out of her at the beginning.
Right.
But
Right.
then we're kind. So
Correct.
those perspectives are both there because sometimes that fear of being caught too is actually important to give a perspective to.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. And I still get that goofy feeling every time somebody pulls behind me.
Right. So okay. So
Let's get in.
kind,
Let's jump in.
heart,
Sorry.
service.
Sorry.
Let's
Yeah,
jump in.
No. It's a perfect segue because I'm just gonna read this excerpt and yeah.
Okay.
All right. I knew the road to X-Man ran first to Trey's house. I gunned the bends to a smooth 75 through light traffic. The sun had been down for a couple of hours, but the temp was still hanging in the high 90s. In the distant oncoming headlights, waves of heat ghosted off the pavement, dancing to the driving beat of my overworked stereo. As we approached, I turned down my radio, lowered my windows, and looked up to the heavens. You helped me get here, so I assume you'll get me out. I often threw out short conversational tidbits just to make sure my back was covered. We made the Fishbowl in 15 minutes. My plan was a low-key transaction. Score a bird, a kilo of cocaine, hang and shoot the breeze for a few minutes, then bolt. My purpose tonight wasn't to bust Trey, who was the classic middleman, a few steps up from street dealer, but below top management. I was engaged in brand building and selling my persona. I was T, a no BS, cash heavy guy from the rich side of town with a long list of wealthy clients from uppity country clubs and West Side inheritors. To dig deeper into the Crip hierarchy, I needed Trey as a reference. The first sign that my plan might be screwed, though, came when I saw Bug get out of his car with Carlos in tow. This was the friend he had mentioned. Hispanic, short, quiet, and unassuming. Bug reintroduced him to me. We met several weeks prior. We nodded toward each other in general respect. I was not pleased to see him again. Bug had filled me in on Carlos before. Working from northern Mexico, Carlos had supplied half of South Texas with cocaine before he got too much attention from the feds and retired. His business affiliations, Los Zetas, was responsible for thousands of drug-related kidnappings and murders, including police, politicians, and federal agents. They were famous for decapitating police officers and leaving their heads on the courthouse steps. Okay.
Wow. Was he flip to a CI? Was he a CI or was he a target?
No, actually, he had nothing to do with my investigation. So this is, and you'll admit, a lot of this stuff, I this isn't a Batman story. This is like a real story. So even the dunce moves are exposed in here. So the fact that I'm meeting up with the CI to go do an intro and see if I can get a buy, and then he brings some perp with him that I know has no business hanging around us, especially knowing that he's already been into some other stuff that I don't know about.
Right.
You know how CIs work. So he's thinking, hey, cool. Oh, Carlos, hey, come on. Hey, I'm running there and come on with me. I'm thinking, dude, you moron. What are you bringing this dude? And so, yeah, it ended up being a catastrophe bringing him along. But it was one of those things where if you go by the book, I was off the books at the time anyway. So all I had done is call a buddy in patrol and had him standing by in a patrol car on an open phone line with me 2 or 3 blocks away. So I wasn't wearing wires and setting up cars everywhere like you would procedurally, because these guys are they're too quick to do business and too savvy for that kind of crap.
Right.
And so it was just one of those things where had I been following procedure, I would have absolutely said, well, we cannot do this. I need to search him. I need to make sure he didn't have it on, blah, 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 go through the whole rigmarole. And instead, I'm like at the threshold of this house, and I'm trying to get this freaking deal.
You went off book for it.
Well, I was off books already.
So
I just thought, well, just let's just go. But again, I was not pleased, but I was improvising anyway, and the opportunity was rare. And I just decided to take that risk on faith and just hoping that I could get to the next level, because that opportunity doesn't open very often. Like I said,
Right.
So.
And ultimately, you write that everything worked out. Carlos realized he had disrespected you, right?
Yeah, right.
And so
after
you write
after the debacle, of course,
right.
that we
You
don't
write.
know,
I suppose even mass murderers have some manners. I mean, it's like
So
knowing that this guy and where he comes from, and I'm reading decapitated, heads
and he's
on the
apologized.
courthouse.
And he's
Yeah,
apologized.
Yeah, but it's true though. Really, if you think about it, like all those cats that I worked around, and I'm talking about the bad guys, the Crips, and all this. As I worked my way through the network and essentially had bad guys vouching for me to other bad guys, you realize that if you just remove the sociopathic element from a lot of these guys, they're exactly like us. They're just like dudes and chicks that are just hanging out, and they're talking about goofy stuff and talking about sports
playing Madden.
Right. Well, we go in, and that frustrated them more than not getting the deal done.
You beat them.
Beat their ass in Madden in their own house. Boy, they weren't happy with that.
It's so funny you say that, because that brings back, and I don't want to get into war stories, but doing.
Yeah, we only have an hour show.
I know, because I did the mob. And you bring up that realism when you take away all that persona. And I remember sitting on a wire on a Monday morning listening to a made guy and one of his captains talking about the friggin' Sopranos on Sunday night that they were watching, and go, do you know what he did? I would have busted his. That's so crazy. And it's like they're talking like just regular people, Yeah. But as soon as they get on the street, oops, so tight, and it's a different world.
And they would actually do it, though. That's the other catch, right? Is that, hey, if you piss me off, we're going to have words, or we're going to have a problem. I'm either going to be done with you or whatever. And if it really digresses, I get you to start swinging on me. But even that's probably not going to happen. And we're grown men. But if you disrespect them in a certain way, then they're going to come back 6 deep and shoot at your house. I mean, that's where the dividing line was set. And that's where, as I got to know them more and more, the more I had this wish that they just didn't have that evil element to them. And
that brings you over to the sociopath part.
Right. Yeah. And, I began to understand why a lot of this was happening too. And I'm sure you guys, deal a lot with that, with the criminals, the same way that you do when you have cops that are distressed and they do extraordinary things. They end up addicted and all these other things. That reason why is important. It's not always an excuse, but it's an important perspective for you to keep in mind when you're treating them like humans. Because, hey, again, I wasn't taking it personally,
right?
But they're the bad guys, and they were. Well, I say they, most of them, but not all of them. Some of them were just absolute scuzz and are going to go to jail for 45 years, get out, and go kill someone else.
Yep.
But most of them were like dudes that I could hang out with otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's a perspective that, as optimistic as I was about people, I still didn't have that real concept down until I was done with this thing.
And you talk about the relationships that you formed, and you had to form those relationships in order for you to be successful in your undercover work. Going back to the book, what I couldn't have known then was how deep I would get and who I would become. And what I would ultimately learn as the outsider going inside this deadly set of criminals, that sometimes you have to play. Sometimes you have to shatter a dope house window with a bowling ball. Sometimes you have to beat a gangbanger nearly to death with your bare hands. You will know true love. You will learn to appreciate the very people you pursue. There will be many nights when you don't know who you are. And in the end, you may just have to wait for the one man you're after. The one you've tracked for so many years for imprisoning a neighborhood of poor, innocent people, and whose demise has become your obsession to make a single, stupid, fatal mistake.
Yeah.
And then it's on.
Yeah, and that's and those are all summarizations of a lot of the things that
I'm skipping around, people. You're gonna have to buy the book, as Jocko would say. I'm skipping around, buy the book.
We don't want to give away too much of the storyline of your book, because we want people to purchase, and I'm going to get it myself. I want to read it. I spoke with Jay Dobbins last summer. Me and Jay came on the show, and Jay did a lot of infiltration into the Hells Angels.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like you got into the Crips, he got into a motorcycle club. You got into the gang activity. What this show is all about is, I know Jay had some hard times afterwards, bringing himself back. I know he had a lot of hard times with his wife and his family and his kids. Okay.
I'm just getting to that
Oh, I'm
part.
sorry,
My
I'm
God,
sorry.
it's like he's psychic, right?
Yes.
Come on. Michael, does he do this at home? Does it drive you crazy? Oh,
Do you
my
want me to
God.
stop and let you go? I didn't know. I didn't know.
No,
But,
yeah, no.
You know, I want to know how you got through that, because a lot of our law enforcement out there, a lot of our first responders out there, deal with a lot of different issues. The ones you already dealt with, right? Now compiled onto that is the undercover work, the stress of putting your family in harm's way, in so to speak, or that mental capacity. And as an undercover, and I know you yourself has to change. You have to change because you can't be the husband. You have to be the drug dealer.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you live that life 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You become them. You know, I became the loan shark. I became the degenerate gamble. So I mean, I treated people like shit. I spoke like them. I'm sure you got the same way, and you took the blunt of it, right, Holly?
Oh, yeah, I mean, yes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big thing, is how does a family react to that? How did you guys get through this? And you're here today. You both look happy. Well, you kind of look happy.
Hey, we just got through our 20-year anniversary.
Happy
So
happy anniversary.
Wow, that's awesome.
everything is good. So anything that we talk about in regards to distress has been ironed out. I
Yeah,
think.
you
But
talk-
she can probably
yeah.
speak best on this.
I'm just a super worry monger. That's the problem. Like, I worry worry anyway about, other things. And okay, sorry.
No, you're good.
And
I'm just gonna make it easier
okay.
for you.
So that was the biggest thing, is that I'm just a worry monger, and I didn't sleep. Like, if he left the house, like, I went to the couch and I stayed awake, and I had a regular job, and luckily my stepson wasn't there most of the time. He lived mostly with his mom, and because Tegan was gone so much, and he went to school where his mom lived was quite a ways away, so
Right.
he would come on weekends. And Tegan also coached his football team, so he tried to get to practices and coaching and stuff. So it was me by myself.
It's like
at
being
home.
a single mom.
Yeah.
It's like being all by yourself. Right.
So I just worried a lot all the time, like worried. And, I can't call him because I don't want to interrupt something. And I know he's on the phone, like an open line, like with someone else, like
Right.
every time he goes in there, because he didn't wear wires. So I just had to wait.
Primitive.
It was like a waiting game. I'd have to wait for him to get home or wait for him to call me and say, just checking in and tell me. So
That's the hardest part, right? It's the not knowing, it's the waiting, you can't check in.
absolutely.
And that does damage.
Yeah, you talk about in the book that part where she got angry and
Yeah.
you guys had to have, I'll call it a heart-to-heart, a chat.
Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
a
it
lot.
comes a
If I
point-
can precede this, like I actually felt like I had a lot of my own personality in my persona, so I didn't feel like I was like gonna dirty my hair and do this and change my vocal inflections and different things. So I felt like I was a lot of myself had I decided to go deal dope and try to get into the game like I did. So
Right.
I tried to be as relatable that way because I thought that's the best way to sell it. So I also worried less that I was bringing home something more extraordinary,
Exactly.
So, however,
Mm-hmm.
as you explained, it's not always the way I think it is. She has the better perspective of how things are, and she could see the changes,
But you
over
can't.
the-
You can't see the
This is
change.
almost 2 years I was
Right.
undercover.
You're
for
not
this
going to
thing,
see the changes because they came gradual and they're in your training. She's
Well,
going to
and
see it
plus you're
because
coming home, sleeping for a couple hours, and you're
Right.
right back
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
and it
Right.
was nerve wracking for me to know that. I mean, she has to be at work at 8:00 in the morning,
Right.
and I'm coming home. It's 10:30, and then I get a call at 1:00 in the morning, and I go get back up, and she gets up, and I'm like, I wanted her to sleep, but
Well, I wanted to sleep too. But,
Right,
But
you
it's
wanted
kinda
to
hard.
sleep, right.
But anyway, I
hard,
just
yeah.
wanted to precede
Yeah.
that with how you noticed whatever
yeah,
changes.
I think my breaking point, I think, was because I was so afraid because he was getting such little sleep, and like it was like, it was getting towards the end, and he was trying to do all of these things because he would tell me things because like I couldn't tell. He would come home sometimes, and like I would have. I remember one time actually was coming to a Rangers game, ironically here, and I had some friends from out of time. They were staying in a hotel. They came over to my house like to meet me, to hang out a little bit before we went, and Tegan actually came home for like 10 minutes or whatever. And of course, I mean, he didn't look a whole lot different. He never cut his hair, so his hair started growing out, and he had a nasty like looking.
This is
You
all
can tell.
this
You know what? I can just tell by her
here.
face how disgusted she was
Yeah.
in your way.
like
you look.
a weird, and so and their comment was like, "Wow, Tegan looks a lot different." Like, do you like the? And I'm like,
Yeah, the scruffy
well,
thing,
of course,
yeah.
no, but I couldn't tell them like what he was doing. I
Right.
just said, oh no, they're working on some, some stuff,
Right.
at work or whatever. They go and do this, like. It's
What do you
hard
say?
because you're just
Right.
like, what do
You
you,
don't know
say?
what
You
to
don't want to
say.
say, you can't say what's really going on because you just don't know. It's not like, I mean, it wasn't like we had, mutual friends, but you just never know who knows,
Correct.
whatever. I mean,
Yep.
because we went.
You got to
for-
protect him as well. You
Exactly.
got to watch.
Yeah,
And we lived in the same city. This was all happening too.
Exactly.
It wasn't
Right,
like
exactly.
they launch you out and you go to a neighboring state. And do
Right.
your
You
thing.
even drove home.
I was
a
driving
certain
home 20
way,
minutes doing heat runs to
Yeah.
try to get
Exactly,
home, but
right.
I lived 20 minutes away.
Right.
Yeah.
But and which makes it harder on you. I mean, out shopping in the store or going
Yeah.
to. I mean, your daily routine
Yeah.
is
Jacked up.
is
Yeah.
turned over. It's
It was-
changed.
Well, and
it was
it's,
jacked
it's,
up.
it's terrible when you go out in public. It's like we have this we never held hands. We never walked. We kept a little bit of distance walking from each other. And-
Almost like celebrities.
Yeah, only one time we were together. One time, and we were outside walking actually, and I always, we never like walked like we were together. I mean, we walked close, but not like completely close to where people would be like, I don't know if they're together or not, kind
Right.
of thing. And we were walking, and this Hispanic guy came out of I think we were walking by. It was like a club, some kind of like bar or something like that, and came out, and he was, said tea. And I immediately heard him say that. I didn't even look in that direction because I didn't want him to think that I was, like the name was
Right.
familiar.
Right.
And I just kept walking, and he's, stopped and talked to him or whatever. And I just kept walking like as, far, and just didn't say anything, just kept
See,
going.
You know
Bought
what's
into the
scary about
program.
that, though?
Yeah,
But you know what's scary about that? And this is what we talk about when we talk about hypervigilance and hyperarousal, right? In post-traumatic stress, we're supposed to feel that.
Yeah.
Right? We're supposed to feel that.
Which you did, and
Right.
trust me,
No,
when you
no,
read
yeah.
this,
No, I
it was
But,
like,
but
yeah.
you know what? Your
She
wife
wasn't.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
feeling those hyperarousal and a hypervigilance state when you're walking out. Me and you.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? We as first responders, we know that we're always on the guard. Our
We
heads
signed
are on,
up for it.
Right.
Exactly.
Our
So to
heads are
speak.
on a swivel
Sort of.
at all times.
Not really, but sort of. Signed
Right.
up for it, yeah.
But our heads are on a swivel at all times. Our spouses aren't supposed to be hypervigilant.
Right.
They shouldn't have to worry. And it seems like your hypervigilance bled off onto
Yeah.
you. You know?
Well, and plus the fact not sleeping.
Yeah.
Not sleeping.
that
Yeah.
that
I
has
did.
a huge.
I will say that I did a couple of times ride out with him when he was in patrol. Like when they did ride outs, I did ride out with
Before
him a few
Undercover
times,
Work,
and-
obviously.
Right.
Yeah, it
Come on,
was-
hon, we're going to go to this drug deal.
yeah. And it was ironically when his book was first published, he did a lot of speaking things, and I went with him, and it seems like that I always graduated to the stage with him because people wanted to ask questions. And one of the things, almost the number one question, there's always two things some people ask him. How in the world did you do this when you're white and you're, infiltrating the Crips?
Right.
And then they ask about the cops scene. Every single person asks about the cops, what happened, when he went to the house and he was on the TV on an episode of Cops. Everyone always asks those two questions. And
Oh yeah,
the first-
it's I'm reading, I'm laughing, I'm
Yeah.
like,
I'm reading the book. Okay.
Yeah. So people, sorry, we're not going to ruin that story. You're going to have to go buy the book.
So anyway, he had a hard time answering the question when people asked him how, but so I had a conversation with him after the first time. I was like, okay, I can help you with that question because I know exactly how you were able to. And it kind of goes back to what you guys were talking about before is when I rode out with him, he was an acquaintance to me. Didn't know him. I was in college working, part-time. And like there was a group of us. He worked off duty, where I worked. And so.
Oh, so she was just a ride along? She was just a ride along that you picked up?
No, not randomly.
Yeah.
But we were already
That's how we
Yeah.
met. But so I, get into his.
I did tell you he's a comedian, right? I did preface that, so he's going to use.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play on it.
And he worked midnights in Eastside, which was eye-opening for me because I'm like, did not have any clue that this kind of area even existed in Fort Worth.
Is he East Side? And I please don't. I don't want to offend anybody. Is that like Stop 6?
Stop 6 is east, and
that's
then,
East Side,
and then it runs all the way from Stop 6, all the way west to 35.
Okay, yeah.
So essentially, does basically encompasses the spot between, and then 30 is your other northern barrier.
Okay.
So anyway, we, it was really busy. We went on lots of calls or whatever, but I was very taken by his demeanor towards the people that he encountered. And he took plenty of people to jail, had conversations with it's like they're buddies, and he's talking to them and he's taking them to jail because, they're, we went on drug call, people selling drugs and I think a break-in, and it really, I don't mean to offend anybody, but you see, most, layman people or some layman people, there's that persona of cops that they're all jerks. They just want to, pull you over, write you tickets. And, there's no, it's hard having conversations with them if you're supposed to be, innocent.
A lot of them put that wall up there, and a lot of them have that us against you mentality.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. And so, I had never really dealt with cops ever in my life before, except for like when I was in high school and they came to party because loud music was called. And then, they give people tickets for, underage drinking or whatever. And then, which I never got. But
of course not.
Tegan bought me my first drink when I was 21.
You would actually be really surprised. That's a whole nother episode.
So anyway, I was so impressed, and I just like, wow, this guy is such a great guy. Like he treated everyone as they were human. And he was not, he was never, he, of course was like, man, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And of course they would be like, well, and they would give, some kind of story or whatever. And if he had to take him to jail, they would sit in the back and they would, just talk. And a lot of them were like, who's the girl in the front? And he was like, oh, she's a judge. You better be nice to her.
That's great.
I'm like, oh,
I know she looks like a 20-year-old blonde. She's a judge.
But you just hit on a key topic that really affects a lot of our law enforcement throughout the nation is the approach. The approach is what changes the whole dynamic of the whole interrogation stop. Hey man, what are you doing this? If I can come up to you and go, hey man, why are you doing this? Or what's up, man? What are you doing this? Or if I approach you in a defensive manner. So if you approach, hey man, what are you doing this?
Yeah.
They're automatically going to be, he's okay. He's just,
things are not, it's that de-escalation.
Correct.
It's an automatic.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, what are you doing? And that comes across, when you guys served the warrants, you arrested all these guys, you gave them ample opportunity, pretty much all of them, to come clean, to talk about their deals with others in the gang, and some of them took you up on the offer, and it showed in the sentences, and some of them did not, and most of these guys, a lot of them are never gonna see the light of day. I mean, a couple of them will die in prison.
Ironically, I was being completely honest when I said, look, if you can cooperate, I will literally testify on your behalf in terms of your rehabilitation potential. And then we only offered that to certain ones.
Right.
But the opposite side of the coin is, well, I've been knowing you for 18 months as T. And now you're sitting on the other side of the table with an FBI agent telling me that if I give up information on all my guys,
How am I to trust
that
you?
you're going to give me a break, right?
trust?
So it was really, that's what was so frustrating to me, is because, man, I really do like you, and I know, like, that
You had a
rapport that we had,
relationship, yeah.
the rapport we had was real. There was an essence of reality
Friendship, right.
to that friendship, right? But there was also that facade that is essentially, this is going to be a bad ending for you. Even if it's a good deal, it's, I can get you 2 years. Well, that's not a great deal either, fool, after all
Right.
we've been through. So it was kind of tormenting to me to think that, man, you don't trust me, but I understand why you don't trust me, but I wish you could just jump in my mind for a second and understand, like, I really mean it. And like what you said, the ones that took me up on it, I testified for them and said, look, I really feel like they got a chance. And like I said, there's a few
Did it
of
work with did it have, it had power with the judges?
Very short sentences on a handful of them. And, you guys know, you can't absolutely control. I can't guarantee it.
Right.
But that's why I said, look, I'll testify, because I had the ear of the U.S. attorney and the FBI agents
like-
was running the case. So.
If you like dickhead cops, you got dickhead judges out there.
Yeah,
Just,
well, yeah, the
had a bad
judges-
day, had a bad, I got into a fight with my wife. I'm going to take it out on my next defendant. It happens,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Wow. Well, this is, folks, this has been eye opening. And again, our hour goes by way too fast.
Sorry.
And so everybody go out, buy the book, Life in the Fishbowl by Tegan Broadwater, sitting right here in the studio with his lovely wife, Holly.
And if you don't mind me mentioning that all of the profits go to Hope Farm, all of the profits from any of the book sales go to Hope Farm Inc., which is
what is that?
It is an organization that mentors children of incarcerated parents,
Excellent.
boys in particular.
Excellent. And you
Okay.
can read more about Tegan's work and why he's so passionate about that, because again, this is not the us versus them, what we see in the press, what people kind of get in their head. Holly, you did a great job explaining that. This is a man who took it upon himself to throw himself into one of the most dangerous gangs that exists in the United States and make a difference. And you did make a difference in that community big time. It's at the end of the book.
Yeah.
Go buy the book.
Don't
That's all I
give it
can
away. How do I know the butler didn't do it, or
right.
Come on, now I know it turns out to be a happy ending.
He just sat here and told you he went
But
to
I
that
didn't
and
know
sat
that.
on the
I want to
stand.
read the book.
Okay, it's a happy ending for some people. How about that?
All right, I'll take that.
And
So,
I appreciate you guys too. I appreciate your backgrounds and learning about you guys and what you've done too. So both Holly and I really appreciate what you guys are doing also. It's really, really fantastic
you're
thing.
I'm just I'm happy that you both came through this. I know it's probably not it wasn't probably an easy road for you guys to
no.
go through. It was
Reconnect.
probably real tough.
Yeah.
And I'd like to one day have
We
you
have to
guys
have
back.
a part two.
I'd like to
Yeah.
have you guys back, not really discussing the book, but discussing the spousal aspect of it, of really getting through this together and what it takes. Because you know what, there's a lot of law enforcement officers across our nation right now that are going through hard times, do not know how to react, do not know how to ask for help, and do not know how to communicate with each other. And I would love to have you guys back on a show so we can discuss the communication factor and the healing for other officers. I think that would be great. I think
She
you guys-
says yes, so we don't have to be back.
See, communication. As long as she says yes, I'm here.
We're
That
good.
means yes.
We're good. Oh my gosh. So guys, if you want to support Mad Radio, to continue to have awesome shows like we just had with
That goes
Tegan
so
and
fast.
Holland. They go so fast, right? Hey, jump onto a badgeofhonor.com, click on Mad Radio. There's a donate button right there because there's a lot of stuff in the background that you don't know about. You can also go. We're gonna put Tegan's book on the Facebook page, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
Gonna put it right next to your book.
thank you.
You got a book? I need to go read it.
Thank you. So, you can buy my book, but buy Tegan's book first.
Buy her book, buy Tegan's book. My book will be out soon.
Yep.
Buy Savannah's book.
There's a whole boatload of ways to support. And hey, if you haven't thought about it, I've been told it's the most unique way. You want your Texas license to carry? TheTexasLTCOnline.com and pick it up for $49. Helps out Mad Radio.
Yeah.
Get
and
your license to carry.
once again, I want to thank Trauma Behind the Badge and Survive First. I want to thank all the members for them who flew out this weekend and helped us dedicate Heroes Bridge and the start of the Heroes Bridge Memorial Park Foundation that will be dedicated for our first responders who have lost a battle to suicide. This is the first in its nation bridge naming and park to honor our families, give them reflection, remembrance, and a journey in how their loved ones lived and not how they died. So I want to give a special thanks out also to Frontline Crisis Response Solutions, Healing Springs Ranch, the Block Foundation, Combined Arms, Heroes on the Water, who joined us out on the bridge, Our Watch, Blue Help, Stay the Course, 22 Kills, Survive First, Trauma Behind a Badge, and once again, the book, Life in the Fishbowl.
Amen.
Right? Keep healing your heroes. Support those who support you every single day. And until next week, stay blessed. Join us every Wednesday, and have a great day.